Hey, Scavers and Soldiers, this is Imp from Black Talon Gaming, and I'm coming at you again from Fallout 4. And today I've got a very special guide for you, something that was not requested or whatever. I just saw a lot of comments and questions about it on Reddit, and I thought I'd go ahead and address the issue. Today's guide, we're going to be talking about survival hydration. In the base vanilla game, when you have water and when you have dirty water, the only uses for dirty water and water is a minute amount of healing that comes with consuming the water. In survival mode, not only does it have the healing properties, but you actually need to, you need to consume water in order to survive. You get thirsty, you go from hydrated to parched roughly every 2 in-game hours. Maybe it's 2 real-life hours. I'm not quite exactly sure on that. And then you go from parched to the various other levels, which we'll cover at the end, every 2 hours or so. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about the effects of hydration, or dehydration. Right now I'm severely dehydrated, which is the worst, which is the worst state of dehydration that you can be in the game. And if you take a look at my action points meter, you'll see that roughly 50% of my action points have been consumed by redline. And yeah, severe dehydration is pretty bad. It comes with a -10 malice to your intelligence, a -3 malice to your charisma, and you're gonna take periodic damage like I am now. Right now, I'm also a like a paragon of health or whatever it's called, the top level perk for hit points, so I regenerate that. But let's go ahead and take a closer look. Make sure that I've got those numbers right. Okay, so -10, so the malices are -10 to intelligence, -3 to luck, -7 to perception, and periodic damage. On top of that, approximately 50% of your action points are going to be consumed because you're so dehydrated. All right, let's go ahead and go to the second stage of dehydration. Right, so now I've just got standard dehydration. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stats there. As you can see, the malices are -8 for intelligence, -2 for luck, -5 for perception. I think the only ones that went up, of course, were intelligence, which you get a huge -2, and then, of course, luck. I think luck is -3 when you're severely dehydrated, and of course you don't have any periodic damage, so that's a pretty good thing. Ostensibly, it's kind of interesting because looking at here, like what dehydration will affect. The biggest thing that you'll notice immediately, right off the bat, when you're fighting, is going to be the action point reduction. On top of that, your perception takes a pretty big hit of -5, which is going to significantly lower your capabilities in VATS mode. So not only are you going to be getting less shots in VATS, but your shots are going to be less accurate. You're going to have a -2 to luck, which, I mean, I can't quantify how luck is built or a luck stat. Like, ostensibly, I'm not sure if it exists in life, so I guess that makes sense. It doesn't really matter. But what this means in game terms is you will find you'll have less critical hit build. I believe less critical hit damage. You'll find less caps and ammunition loot in containers, and a few other things. I mean, luck is really one of kind of like these grab all stats. Now, -8 to intelligence, this is kind of the big one. And I guess I should have covered this when we were talking about severely dehydrated. But -8 to intelligence is going to affect your skill gain capacity. Like right now, I'm probably operating with 1 or 2 intelligence points. No, 2 exactly, not to mention whatever clothing I'm wearing. So my ability to gain experience points is like extremely limited. I think, well, it's going to be 2/10 of what it was previously because I had 10. So, I mean, there you go. Like, and the thing is the intelligence malice, you're not going to feel that in combat at all. You're going to feel that over the long term in terms of gaining gaining levels and making headway and progress in the game. So one of the interesting things is though is since it's mostly an out of combat effect, you're not going to feel it in combat, and whenever you get any significant period of time, you're going to rehydrate. So I would say that malice really doesn't affect you all that much. The only big thing that's going to affect you is that when you're dehydrated, VATS is going to be incredibly useless, because not only are you, well, not useless, but it's going to be a lot diminished what it was previously, because not only are you you have less action points, you're hitting with a lower percentage chance to hit, you're building critical hits even slower, so overall, if you're really dehydrated, you're probably not going to get your money's worth out of VATS. I would still recommend using it simply because it makes sense, but it is what it is. Alright, so we're at mildly dehydrated now, so let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like and what that means. Alright, so once again, same thing, no damage, perception is down, intelligence is down. Intelligence, it's kind of interesting because luck and perception malices build slowly, but intelligence very quickly jumps from -4 to negative. So it seems to be intelligence malices are at a geometric scale, whereas luck and perception are just building one by one. But once again, going back to this, it's the same theme. You're going to have out of combat, you're going to have less skill points gain. And when I say out of combat, I mean whenever you kill something, you're still going to gain less experience points from it. So like it does affect combat gains of experience, but the reality is that dehydration and intelligence malices, they're really only gonna play that big of a role over a long period of game. Like, so if you were dehydrated for like freaking ever or whatever, which is, I would almost argue, impossible in this game, as long as you're willing to build up rads, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, -4 intelligence, like, once again, it's going to affect your long game, but it's not really big of a concern. -1 to luck and -3 to perception, that's still going to heavily, not as much as dehydration or severe dehydration, but it's still going to affect your capability in VATS. Alright, so this time around, I believe I'm at the level of hydration known as thirsty. So, like, I think by now, I think the luck malice has disappeared and the perception malice is down to a -2. I very rarely get past this stage in when playing Fallout or whatnot. Like, maybe after a big battle I might get like really dehydrated because I use stim packs in battle, but I do not use water, which is another thing to address, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's go ahead and take a look at the effects of thirsty. Alright, so thirsty, once again, like I said, charisma, or excuse me, luck negative has entirely disappeared. The perception negative is down to a -1. Intelligence is a -2. Same thing, but pretty much you're not going to see any of the effects of this in combat, with the exception of like a 5 to 10% decrease in your ability to hit in VATS. And once again, your action points are down a little bit lower. I would say that's about 15% of your action points are taken away. Alright, so now we're down to Parched or something like that. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Alright, so at Parched, we're at -1 intelligence. Once again, you're going to feel that out of combat more than you will in combat. I would say Parched is going to come along at you kind of secretively. Like, you're not going to really notice that you're parched except for the AP point drain. And as a result of Parched, you're going to be getting less less experience points over the long run. So you wanna be hydrated as much as you possibly can. So carry around your water, because if you're parched, every activity that you complete that earns experience is essentially worth less than had you completed it fully hydrated. All right, so your first option for curing dehydration of any amount is going to be drinking from local water sources in the environment. I would strongly recommend against this, but it is worth noting that these local water sources are everywhere on the map, so there's really no reason, and there really is no reason not to drink from them if you have no other option available. But you kind of have to weigh your options, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But all right, so if you are dehydrated, let's go ahead or parched, it's going to take you 2 sips of water from a local water source to go from parched to hydrated again. So let's go ahead and do that. And you're going to notice this is the same as with a dirty water, and we'll cover that later. But I think there is a big difference from drinking in the environment as opposed to drinking dirty water bottles. Somebody can check the coding and tell me if I am on the money with this or not. However, at my level, drinking from local water sources, approximately 1 in every 4 sips, I'm going to contract a disease or an illness. Whereas with dirty water, even though there's still a big chance for me to contract a waterborne illness from dirty water, it's definitely somewhere like around like 1 in 10 or something like that. Like it's kind of ridiculous. So I mean, it makes sense. So keep that in mind. If you're drinking from local water sources, there's a higher chance for you to catch waterborne disease. You can still catch it from dirty water that's in the bottles or whatever. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and move on to the next hydration item. Alright, so our first survival hydration item is of course the dirty water carton. The dirty water carton is the first form of water that you'll find in the wasteland. And it is, in terms of hydration, exactly the same as drinking from the river, in that it will take 2 units of dirty water, and once again this is at a higher level character, so I'm pretty sure that there are going to be some benefits with leveling up, because I've heard on Reddit and other things that for lower level characters it's 3 units of water. However, the rest of the ratios don't change, but I think it has something to do with the lead belly perk. Anyhow, let's go ahead and continue. At my level, it takes 2 units of water to move from one stage of hydration to the next. So if I am thirsty, in order to go to parched, I'm going to have to drink 2 dirty water. And then same thing with drinking from the river, 2 handfuls of water will do it. Once again, I think I covered this previously. The biggest thing is that with handfuls of water and dirty water, you have the chance of contracting a waterborne disease. And I am not entirely sure, but it certainly feels like dirty water in the carton produces less disease than it does straight from the river. I want to say it takes something like 5 or 6 cartons of dirty water before I contract a disease, and it takes it like 2 or 3 handfuls of dirty water from the river to contract a disease. And once again, the disease contracted is random, so it's not like the same disease. Anyhow, but yeah, that's our first object on the list, is of course dirty water. Alright, so the second item on our list is going to be a can of purified water. It's kind of interesting to note aesthetically that the can comes in a metal can and the dirty water comes in a carton, a milk carton that's been converted, it looks like. So it's kind of interesting because you're thinking, well, in previous games or whatever, like it seemed to be represented by a plastic water bottle. If you've taken a kind of an objective eye about the game, it seems like once again, sources of glass and sources of metal are far more available in the game world lore-wise than sources of oil and plastic. And of course this deals with the fact that the game lore has that pretty much oils and plastics which are derived from oils were running out at the end of the 22nd century, or excuse me, the end of the 21st century. They were running out. So by 2077, the Chinese had to invade Anchorage in order just to get a source of oil. Anyhow, so the plastic water can, it's twice as effective, according to my tests, it's twice as effective as a dirty water carton. On Reddit and other sources that I've seen, it's been stated that it can be up to 3 times as effective than dirty water. So keep that in mind, especially when you're calculating how much water you need to survive the wasteland. You're going to need 2 to 3 times as much dirty water as you would need as you would need a can of purified water. Now, mind you, you could say, well, if I need dirty water, I'm just not going to carry anything around with me. I'm just going to drink from local sources of water. But once again, that could be a problem because, especially in dungeons, sometimes the local sources of water can still be far away, and it might be advantageous for you to press on rather than turn around, go outside, get some water, come back in. And then B, like I said, I do believe, like, I think somebody will back this up, that there is a difference in how much and how often you get disease as opposed from drinking from the stream and drinking from the carton. And therein lies one of the major advantages of drinking purified water. Not only does it give you more hydration, but it is also disease-free. So you drink purified water, you don't need to worry about catching water rabies or whatever the fuck, water AIDS. But yeah, so that's purified water. It sells for a lot more than dirty water. Right now, I think the base values on it are going to be... Base value is 20. With dirty water, the base value is 5. So you're looking at a 4-fold increase on the value of purified water as opposed to dirty water. So that's just another thing to consider, when making your water consumption decisions. Alright guys, so this is good old Nuka-Cola. Nuka-Cola can be found in the game world. Is quite expensive. I think, let me check if my... Yeah, well, it's about as expensive as a bottle of purified water, which is interesting. And Nuka-Cola is less capable of healing your hydration or restoring your hydration than regular purified water. It will not produce any diseases, though. And, of course, there's a big extra effect, is that Nuka-Cola can and will reduce your AP point drain from fatigue. And once again, fatigue comes from a lot of different sources, whether it's sleep or whether it's loss of food or dehydration, what have you. But of course, Nuka-Cola is going to do double duty in that regard, because not only is it going to reduce your fatigue overall, but it's going to reduce your hydration as well, and it hydrates about as good as dirty water. I tested Nuka Cherry, and Nuka Cherry works pretty much the same as regular Nuka-Cola. I have not tested anything from Nuka World. I'm going to do a separate video, and I'm going to test all the different side effects and aid effects of the various Nuka World colas, but that's not going to be today. So pretty much we're just looking at Nuka-Cola, and for the purposes of this video, Nuka-Cola and Nuka Cherry are the same thing. They hydrate as well as a dirty water. They provide a caffeine boost, and they are also really awesome in that they give you a cap. That's pretty cool. That's always cool. But let's go ahead and go on to the last basic aid item for hydration. Alright guys, so the last aid item for hydration on the list is going to be Nuka-Cola Quantum. Nuka-Cola Quantum is in the vanilla base game, which is why I'm covering it, but not any of the other types of Nuka-Cola. In the game world, or the lore world, Nuka-Cola Quantum had been released, I do believe, 2 days prior to the nuclear apocalypse, so it's kind of ironic. It is far more rare than Nuka-Cola Cherry or even straight Nuka-Cola. However, its benefits or there's tons of them. All right, but let's go ahead and go first into hydration. In terms of hydration, it functions much the same as purified water. So it's twice as effective at hydrating you than regular Nuka-Cola, and it's about the same amount of hydration as a bottle of purified water. There are no diseases when you consume this item, so there's no chance for you to, contract an infection or what have you. Where Nuka-Cola Quantum and really any of the Nuka-Colas really gain their strength over water or dirty water, or even purified water, is their healing ability. Let's go ahead and compare Nuka-Cola Quantum's healing capability, as well as, another strength is their caffeine. But let's compare Nuka-Quantum's healing ability to regular purified water. And we're also going to take a look at a few other things. So when we scroll down here to purified water, we see that gain 40 hit points over the course of a few seconds, whereas Nuka-Quantum gains 600 hit points over the course of a few seconds. So let's say that each one of those was 10 seconds, like a 10-second tick. Nuka-Quantum is going to heal you 60 points a second, whereas regular purified water is going to heal you 4 points a second. So that's a tremendous difference. In addition, both Nuka-Quantum and Nuka-Cola and Nuka-Cherry, they add action points, so they can be really useful in a gunfight, especially after you've just exited VATS and you've taken a few points of damage because you were in VATS mode and really couldn't move. Not only will they heal you, but they'll restore your action points. Pretty much Quantum will fill up your action point meter immediately, and you'll be able to re-enter VATS and do it all over again, So in that way, it is far more valuable than purified water even. And it is probably the most valuable hydration item in the game. Of course, it is incredibly rare. And yeah, I mean, if you have to consider any hydration item that you might want to use during combat, you should always consider Nuka-Cola and Nuka-Quantum first, because their effects are going to be most prominent or most pronounced while you're in combat, because not only are they going to hydrate you and take away those malices for luck and perception, which affects your VATS ability, but they're going to regenerate action points so that you can use VATS pretty much right after having used it. Anyhow, that is my basic guide for survival hydration in the game Fallout 4. I want to thank you for watching. If you have any comments, questions, please leave them in the section below. If you have any questions about specific aid items that I have not covered here, I tried not to make this all exhaustive because I want to cover any of the special drinks and special items that also, because there are a few food items that do provide hydration, like for example the noodle cup. I have not covered those here. I will cover them in further videos. But anyways, that's just the basic 4 items that I think are kind of ubiquitous and important for hydration management in the survival difficulty of Fallout 4. Anyhow, thanks for watching, and y'all stay awesome.